Martin, and welcome to another great edition of Astronomy for Beginners. Now, I've seen a lot of times through a lot of astronomy shops and online that people are achieving precise polar alignment, but there is a lot of good products out there that are literally that you can attach this attachment onto your mount, which is really good, and people are getting really accurate polar alignment. And we're not talking just precise polar alignment, but we're talking that your mount is actually well exceeding its capabilities. Now this EQ5 mount here can track accurately if it's polar aligned precise to about 1 arcsecond, which is fantastic for its design and how it can track. As I mentioned before through a lot of video guides, that you need to polar align your telescope mount if you want to achieve precise accurate images, so you don't get any star trailing in your images. And better the polar alignment on your mount, better the images will be. In other words, if I get this mount polar aligned really accurately, I could be able to track unguided for literally 5 minutes or more. Now, trouble is about polar alignment is it's very temperamental. You're not going to guarantee the best possible polar alignment. There are some nights where even the seeing conditions may affect what you see, and relying on a polar scope, which is fitted on this mount, determines how accurate your polar alignment is going to be. Now there are a lot of useful apps that you can center the polar scope reticle. So once you set your reticle, you can then move your mount either way so that you can get this you're accurate on your polar alignment as precise as possible. There are many issues, many factors what can determine how good your polar alignment is going to be. A lot of the times is that the polar alignment can be very tricky, and sometimes people don't want to just go and bend down to have a look through the polar scope, because believe me, when you're down here and you're trying to look up to try and find Polaris, the North Star, it's really difficult, and sometimes it can be neck breaking. So again, it's not always an easy option. However, like always, I'm one of these people who want to try out something different. This new modification that's come out is really quite simple to use, and the good thing is, long as if you've got an EQ mount with a built-in polar scope for starters, normal telescope with a camera, and one particularly useful device is this. Now if you're owner of a Finderscope, like a 9x50 Finderscope or a 60mm Finderscope, and you're an owner of a particular guide camera, which is this one, this Alta Astro GP camera, you can achieve some amazing results. Now the reason why I said this, why you need these particular items here, you can actually polar align very accurately using the correct software called Sharpcap 2.9. This Sharpcap 2.9 is a CCD webcam CMOS camera imaging software program. It is free to download, alright, and you can run the capture software. This will run on many CCD small cameras, small chip cameras, particularly the Alta Astro GP Cam or the GP Cam 2. This will also work with QHY5s and the 6s. This would also work on all the Zoo cameras if you're a Zoo owner, particularly the 120 models and upwards, okay, and the 224s. They will also work on those cameras. Also, some the older webcams like your Philips 900C, they also work on that. as long as if you've got a small chip guide camera, you can actually use this with Sharpcap 2.9. The good thing about Sharpcap 2.9 is you can actually, with its unique software which has this polar line, this polar line will give you the ability to do precise polar alignment. Now, I'm very fully aware that again you still need to pay for certain items to make this work, but believe me, this is going to be damn sight cheaper and just as effective. And again, with the guide scope and your camera, you can still do guiding as well, so you're not wasting any money in this. This is actually going to maximize your performance of your mount, and you can take longer exposures and take some fantastic images. Now, the good thing with this Sharpcap 2.9 is it's really easy to set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until it's getting dark, and I'm going to test this out for the first time. Believe me, I've not used this polar line on Sharpcap 2.9. Again, this is my first time using it. I've had no experiences whatsoever, but what I do first off is I'm going to set up the telescope and the guide camera and run up the software. Okay, get that initialized so it's working properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a closer look how you will set this properly, ready to do a precise polar alignment. So if you're interested, keep watching and we'll take it from there. So what we have here, before you start using the polar line using Sharpcap 2.9, the first thing you're going to need before you do anything when you start polar lining your mount, you need to undertake this during the day. And what you want to do is you want to set up your telescope and your guide scope. Okay, get your guide camera, get it all set up. Now, as you can see on this computer screen, I've aligned my guide scope and my camera using the crosshair figure on a terrestrial object. Now, as you can see there, I'm aligned this scope, the scope rings here. Okay, so it's adjusted. Okay, and my guide scope is also focused. That is exactly where I want it. And basically what's happened here is I've adjusted the screws on the scope rings. Alright, this guide scope is in line with the main tube. Now, as you can see here, there is my camera, and I've got the image on the main tube. You can also check it out on Sharpcap 2.9. That is also aligned using the crosshairs. Right, you can see exactly now that's fully aligned. Now, this is very, very important that you get this adjusted. Otherwise, when you come to polar align your telescope, this is not going to work. So it is very crucial that you get the guide scope and the main tube aligned first. And the best way to do it is during the day. Save time. Once it's aligned, you're ready to go. It doesn't matter if you're slightly off by 5 degrees. The more accurate you can get with your setup, with the guide scope and the main tube, the better it is when you're going to do the polar line. So it is very crucial. And again, this is how accurate it is. If I zoom in on my camera, okay, at 10 times zoom, I am still centered in the field of view, okay, on my camera. So again, this is very crucial on your setup. If you want the polar line to work for you, this is what you're going to have to do first prior to your night's imaging. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wait till dark, and we're going to start getting our mount set up and the telescope set up. So now we'll proceed to the next step. So it's now getting dark. Now I'm running my DSLR as my main imaging camera. With this software, this will enable me to adjust Polaris. Now Polaris is just barely visible. As you can see, it's not good light at all, but it's just barely visible. Now the top tip is I usually do a polar line. So I polar align it first, a rough polar alignment. Does not need to be in the reticle itself. And what I do is I basically get it into live view, and I've got Polaris on my camera, as you can see there. I have Polaris there. Because the guide scope is now aligned, in theory, that star should be in line with my guide scope now. And that is the main reason why we set it up during the day. So now we've got Polaris in that screen now, we can now connect it to the laptop and begin our polar alignment. Also, during this setup, once we've got Sharpcap 2.9 working, do not switch on your go-to mount. Okay, switch the go-to mount off, because when you do this alignment, you need to adjust the mount itself. You're not going to use the go-to for any of the functions. So what you do is, once you've got it in line, I'll go through a step by step. Now don't forget, you've got to quick release the RA axis, and then you've got to pivot by itself for the system to work. So again, make sure your laptop, make sure that your go-to is switched off in that process. So no go-to or power up for this procedure. Once you're sort of polar lines, then you can commence like normal, switch on the mount, and you can begin your star alignment. But this is just to start off straight away, getting precise polar alignment. So what we're going to do now is get the laptop, and we'll proceed the polar alignment. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Sharpcap 2.9. Now Sharpcap 2.9 only works on this is the newest Sharpcap. You must upload this, and what we're going to do is we're going to set the camera, find the camera, and this is our camera there, GP cam. To go into X mode, get an image. As you can see now, we've put X mode. You need around about 4 to 8 seconds. Okay, so you need to up it up. Now, as you can see at the bottom there, we've just got Polaris. So all we need to do is move the mount so that we can get Polaris into view. Even though the camera is level, it's not so in this telescope. Okay, it takes a while to get on there, but as we can see now, we've got Polaris now. It's quite bright. The good thing is it's already set up, it's already focused. We can start to begin to see quite a few stars there in that star field. So now what we're going to do is we're going to polar align using the software. Highlight capture, in fact, go along, select tools, then select polar align. It tells you a few hints and tips of how to set it up. Okay, but we're going to ignore all that. The main thing we need to be sure is making sure that we have at least 10-15 stars, and using the correct guide scope, the 50mm or more, with a 200mm focal length. So we're happy with that. Click on next. What the program is beginning to do is it's going to figure out which are the stars. Now this may take a while, but don't forget it's not quite dark enough yet, so we might not be able to get all the stars we need yet. Around about 8 seconds, probably
or stars within that field of view. We're starting to make some progress now. Okay, so we get a graph of the actual reticle. Now this graph represents where the dead center, or where, because don't forget, Polaris, despite being a bright star, is not actually central. What it does is, it's because it's a 1 degree out field of view, the dead center is literally just about here. My pointer is, that's where dead center is. So it's gives us a few star locations, a few areas where it's highlighted, and it gives us a graph. Because now it's solved, click on next. Then it asks you to rotate the RA axis. So to do that is we, again, making sure that the mount is not switched on, switch off all drives, loosen the RA axis of your lock screw, and you're going to rotate 90 degrees. And you rotate it until it tells you to stop. Now you'll see now a bit of star trailing, but that's normal. Now we'll just wait. Okay. Okay. Now you don't need to be bang on near Polaris, okay? You need to be within 5 degrees. Now this is looking really good because I now need to do a few minor adjustments. From next, and basically it's telling me now, find the star with the arrow. As you can see at this screen here, you can see the target sign, and it tells me the position where I need to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the mount up using the altitude screws, because that is the biggest adjustments I need to do. So I need to move down. Okay, I've just gone almost there. Okay, I'm near as damn it there. So now I'm going to move in the right position, the right axis, using those screws. So what we're going to do now is we're going to adjust the right position using the L-Tassimov mount, using the screws on the L-Tassimov position. I'm moving the mount right. It's taking a while. It's quite tricky, but I'm using small adjustments as necessary, bit by bit at a time. It's very temperamental, but as you can see now I'm getting closer. I've just got past it slightly, but again it's only tiny movements, literally tiny movements. Okay, I'm almost right, 0 degrees. Right, there's a bit of a tolerance there. I need to move the position up, so I'm closing in. So I'm using the altitude bolts. So I'm adjusting the altitude up, and what I'm trying to do is trying to achieve that crosshair, and I'm trying to get the right into 0 minutes, or 0 hours, 0 minutes and 0 seconds, same as the up or down position. So basically you're going to try and get that to 0.0000 on both axes. That's ideally what you need to achieve. However, now very close now. 1 second, and I'm actually quite happy with the results here. This is quite impressive. And as I'm closing in, I'm adjusting this the screws on the altazimuth slightly, and even if I've only just got 2 seconds, it's enough. Now as you can see now, I'm extremely close, and these are very tiny movements. I'm at right, which is 2 seconds. Okay, I'm happy with that alignment. So basically now with that alignment, with 2 seconds, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm very close. Ideally you should have 0.0000 at both polar line error, but 2 seconds out is not bad. I'm actually quite pleased with the results there. So I'm going to cancel the program, and I'm going to set the camera to take on the DSLR camera to take a long exposure of the Great Orion Nebula. So 2 seconds of error. Ideally I want all zeroed in position, but again these are very tiny movements. They're very tricky to get it right, but once you got it there, that is perfect. So I'm going to close the program because we no longer need it. That's our alignment done. That's our pole alignment, and let's hope this works and see what results we get for our long exposures. So we're going to cancel Sharpcap, and off we go. So then we have got it pole aligned using a pole line feature on the Sharpcap. Now this is only a trial period. I'm just trying to get used to the controls and the system, but basically now I've done my 2-star alignment, and I'm going to take a 5-minute exposure unguided. I've set the camera and letting it cool down, okay, as you can see there, and we've got Orion in the picture there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 5-minute exposure. I'm not really bothered about the moon being there, okay. This will brighten the actual image out. So take 5 minutes exposures. In fact, I might lower it down to ISO 400 and see what I get. So let's hopefully, should be pole aligned, so I should be able to get away with 5 minutes exposures. So let's see, we'll start the camera and we'll wait 5 minutes. So we're now coming up to 5 minutes exposures. The camera's cooling down nicely, and we'll see what we get. Now that's a bit washed out, but we'll have a look at that picture again. Well, I don't believe it. That is the actual picture, and there's hardly any star trailing. Now this is totally unguided, right? There's no guiding at all on this. And 5 minutes exposure at ISO 400, well, in fact ISO 400, that is pretty remarkable. I'm actually quite impressed with that. We are starting again. 5 minutes exposure is pretty impressive, being unguided. It seems to me that polar line is working absolutely fantastic, and we're trying again this time. Set the camera at ISO 100 because obviously I had to set it that low because the moon's up. So I'm going to try and get the image at 10 minutes and see what outcome I got. The last image I did see was slightly out of focus, so I've now readjusted the focus again, and I'm pinpoint now. I'm that pinpoint now. I can see the trapezium stars in between the centre of the nebula. So we're going to try again at 10 minutes exposure and see what outcome we've got. So far I'm really impressed with the results what I'm seeing now. So we're now coming up to 10 minutes exposure, and we'll see how good this unguided EQ5 mount is. Now don't forget, the image is now focused. This will be washed out because the moon's up, and we'll see how good now. So we're gonna take the shot. Okay, as you can see there, it's pretty washed out. So okay, we've now got our still shot. This is 10 minutes exposure, and already we've started to get some star drifting, but that's really impressive. This is an unguided mount, and it's achieved 10 minutes exposure despite the moon overexposing the background there. But as you can see, we've only a little bit of star trailing there, only a little bit, and you can just see now, that's just impressive. If we just take a closer look, we zoom in, you can just see now the stars have started to trail there. That is really impressive. I'm actually quite amazed, really. That is really outstanding. And don't forget, this is unguided, so that polar line on Sharpcap is pretty impressive. So what I'll do is now, because of the star trailing, I reckon we need to lower it down to about 7 minutes will be alright, I reckon. So we'll try 7 minutes exposure and see what outcome we got then. Okay, we're up to 7 minutes, coming up to 7 minutes, camera's cooling down nice. I'm going to see now how good this image is going to look. Oh my god, that is pretty impressive. That is pretty impressive stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to stop that exposure and we'll go back to that again. Yeah, wow, my god. Okay, 7 minutes, a tiny hint of trailing, but I reckon 5 minutes unguided is enough for that. So it just proves now that polar line, it works an absolute treat. That is impressive. And unguided. Now if this was a guided system, you will not get any of this trailing. So 5 minutes would have been more than adequate. And again, the moon is washing out the image as well. The sky is very bright. So really impressed with that, with those results. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go back to 5 minutes, because 5 minutes seems to be ideal for that. But again, I'll go a lot lower because of the moon. But wow, what a difference. Really impressed with that. Well, I'm starting to take 3 minutes exposures because the 5 minutes are just not doing any justice to the image, and the moon is getting brighter and brighter. So it's just ruining the image. So I'm decided to take 3 minutes exposures, which is quite long even from unguided. If I had darker skies, then I would have definitely gone for 5 minutes exposures all the way. But again, with just 10 minutes exposures, with just a bit of fraction of star trailing, that is still impressive to say that this is not a guided setup. If I had it all guided up, then I would have definitely gone 10 minutes and beyond. And this is just a budget style mount, an EQ5 mount. It just shows that with good practice, using the equipment, getting used to the things you've got to use, using the resources like polar line, demonstrates how effective your setup can be. Using the correct procedures, and as you can see, yeah, 3 minutes, not a glitch on the tracking whatsoever. So what an improvement. Fantastic. So I'm going to take loads of 3 minutes exposures with a few dark frames and call it a night, because it's not ideal to take long exposures, especially with these conditions. But what a result! What a result!
So then, what do you reckon, guys and girls? Yes, very impressive indeed. To say I had a few running problems, I had a few teething problems to get this set up for Polo Line. Sharpcap 2 2.9 is not quite straightforward, I agree. But again, it takes some time to get used to it, and to be honest with you, okay, I had a few teething problems on the first time, so I readjusted it and did it again. And again, it's quite simple. Once you've got that guide scope locked on 10 or 15 stars, you then click on the next button, and it is quite simple. So to enable to do the precise polar alignment using Sharpcap 2.9, because I couldn't describe it in the video very clear, okay, what I was doing is once I've got the guide scope and it found 10-15 stars, once it enabled me to click the next button, all I did was then rotate the mount, and it was literally like this. At the back, you unlock the screw from the RA axis. You then tilt the mount like so to 90 degrees, or wait till the program initializes, and once it says you've done, it will say stop moving. You then lock the RA axis like so. Okay, that is now tilted at 90 degrees. Then I click on the next button. Once it's found out the alignment on how much plate solving it can figure out, then I click on the next button, and it tells me where to turn them out. And it was basically using the Altosimov bolts like so. Okay, so I was just again fine tuning the Altosimov bolts in that axis. Okay, and it was only a small amount of movements. Okay, not massive movements, but small amount of movements, bit by bit. It was literally like that. And then again, you adjust it in the altitude, in the latitude. So you got screws here. Okay, these screws here. Okay, and you then adjust the mount up and down like so. Okay, it was literally like that. Again, small amount of movements. You looking at the computer screen while you're adjusting the movements, looking at the figures, looking at the values, how they are positioning. And again, you keep doing that until you start getting to single figures, and then start getting zeros, because that's what you want. Once you get the zeros, your mount is then precise polar alignment. Now, one improvement I would like to have seen on Sharpcap 2 is show you where to move the mount. Okay, something that will give you some guidelines. It tells you to move left and move right, or up or down. But I would like to have seen something on the program, actually on the screen, to show you some arrows. You know, particularly for the people who have got bad eyesight or can't see the screen quite clearly. Then I like to see some arrows going up or down. Okay, so you can look at the arrows and follow the arrows as you're turning. Also, I would like to have seen some instructions on where to turn on the mount as well. So like use the Altosimov bolts or something like that. So there is a few teething problems with the program, but it is actually very easy to do. Once you've got precise polar alignment and it's all zeroed, you then unlock the RA axis and you tilt it to its home position. That is its home position. And then now you can switch on the go-to mount and then begin your star alignment. Once you're done, you should be precise polar aligned, and again collecting those great images. It's that easy. That was literally what I was doing. I would like to have seen a little like a comfort zone, like once you've achieved the zeros, once it's all fully zeroed, I would like to see the program to say, okay, you've locked on your precise pole alignment, your alignment is complete, something like that. But it doesn't. So once you've pole aligned and it's zeroed as accurate as possible, you can shut down Sharpcap 2.9. You don't need to run it. Again, if you're going to use the Sharpcap 2 anyway for imaging, then you can use it by that way. And that's it. That's basically what I was doing. You know, tiny movements on the mount itself. Okay, making sure that all your declination and your RA axis are locked whilst you're doing your adjustment. And then that is it. That was all I was doing. That's how easy it was. And as you saw through my first experience, the first night out, using this telescope, the same setup here, again, I was achieving amazing results. And it just shows you how easy it is to use Sharpcap 2.9. And again, if you're interested to do this, please undertake this. It's really well worth the time, the effort, and save a lot of money in the process. And again, all you need is an EQ mount, ideally a tracking mount, that one's like a SynScan like this one, something that's going to be tracking. Alright, you can use these on the Star Adventurer, for example. You can use that as well. The Star Adventurer mounts can also track really well, and again, as long as you've got a guide scope for the actual mount and the guide camera. The guide camera, again, there's many guide cameras you can buy, but this one I find, particularly the Alto Astro GP cam, is a fantastic camera. And again, it's got loads of uses. You can use it for many things: guiding, imaging planets, or even deep sky objects. And best of all, now you can use that camera with precise pole alignment. So again, 4 uses already for this Alto Astro camera. And again, it's a cheap camera. You can, and it'll be available. You know, just if you're interested in buying one of these, purchase online to Alto Astro. Alright, there's the link there. Again, please visit the website and order one. Also, Tring Astronomy will sell these at a great price as well. So again, visit their shop online as well, and you can get this fantastic GP camera. Now, as you've seen from my first night out there, is it worth having? Yes. It is well worth the effort, the time to get this system working. And don't forget, that is the first time I used that system. That was my first night, and already this mount, I mean, this is just an EQ5 mount. This is just a basic, normal astrophotography, basic line mount. And again, this will work, this system will work for many other EQ mounts. As long as it's multiple tracking, you can get similar results. And again, polar scope, you definitely need to use. Right, get the polar alignment first. Once you get Polaris lined up, as roughly, that's the good thing about polar line, is you don't need to get this bang on. Once you've got Polaris in the rough position of the polar scope, you don't need to do a lot of fine tuning, a lot of crawling down, looking up for the polar scope. You don't need to do that. Use the guide scope. The guide scope with the software, a Sharpcap 2.9, will do the stuff for you. All you got to do is follow that procedure, get it set up, increase the exposure on the camera through the Sharpcap software to about 2, maybe 6 seconds long of exposure. And again, focus is crucial and alignment is crucial as well. Okay, as I demonstrated how to get the guide scope and the telescope in line, get that set up properly. Once you're set up, then you're ready to do some precise pole alignment and take longer exposures and have stunning images, and that's what we want. We want you to get stunning images. And again, like I said, I've been able to track 10 minutes unguided. Now that is saying something. 10 minutes unguided and achieving literally, okay, I was slightly out, wasn't perfect, I wasn't perfectly zeroed, but I was 2 second arcs seconds out. Okay, I wasn't literally spot on, but being unguided and taking longer exposures of 10 minutes, okay, I did have slight star trailing. But just, can you imagine if I had that guide scope and the camera running and I was guiding? I would have definitely, easily have gone from 10 minutes plus, and then we're talking 20, maybe 30 minutes long of exposures, which is more than ample. But don't forget, there also is a balance. I had the moon. Again, full moon's not eye conditions. So even at 10 minutes exposures, I was literally blinding, washing out my image of the Orion Nebula, and it wasn't great. So again, dark skies, location, where you're at, will determine how long you can gather the exposure. So there is a certain limit. Again, light pollution plays a huge part of how long you need to expose for. So again, there are certain limits. But if I had no moon, I reckon I could expose quite easily 20, maybe 30 minutes long. That's how good it is. And seriously, this setup, if this was guided, fantastic. But 10 minutes is equally, in fact, just as well. And don't forget, I was only using a lower ISO. Now the reason why I was using that lower ISO on the camera is because that moon was so bright. If I used higher ISO rating, ideally I would have used ISO between 800 to 1600. Just imagine what 10 minutes exposures would have been like if I didn't have that pesky full moon out there. Okay, if I didn't have that, Orion would have been absolutely stunning, and I would have been able to capture even the fainter regions of the nebula gas. Okay, that's how good it would have been. I'm afraid it didn't happen for me, but not to worry. I'll just wait until the next clear skies, and I'll do the same setup using the Astro GP cam with the guide scope setup, and using Sharpcap 2.9. Again, using polar line function, and achieve outstanding images. And that's what we want you to achieve, is great images. So again, if you're interested, please feel free to comment on this video, and please give a thumbs up to this video. We're also available on the Facebook group Astronomy for Beginners. Again, please click on that link there and please join this group. And again, we're available there. We've got a lot of great advice and a lot of great images through total beginners who haven't got a clue about astronomy. And with that Facebook group, we provide some really good information for the total beginners. Again, please feel free to visit that group. Please subscribe onto my channel. Alright, click on there, click on the subscribe button, and please, again, I'll keep you informed with the new latest astronomy projects coming out. And thanks again, thanks for watching, and clear skies to you all.